Yeah, you've broken my train of thought now. You've destroyed it.
You mean to say you actually have a thought that's like a train?
No, actually, that's you're right. It's
It's a
It's
train.
like a
It's a train that
derail.
gets sidetracked a lot.
or derailed.
Yeah.
He does.
Well, tell me, we were talking about the incident of competition, and you were actually going to get to the final point, and I cut you off.
Yeah, because you said that you're a Canadian and you didn't know anything about the Civil War, and that's where the original incident of competition came, and that is that at Gettysburg, when Joshua Chamberlain was with the 20th Maine, was holding the end of the fishhook along Cemetery Ridge and defending against the South, who was attacking. And he was at the very end, and they didn't assume, the Union didn't think the South was going to attack that way that day. And so they put the Maine down there, who had been really hurt at Fredericksburg earlier, and they needed a rest, and so they thought they won't get much action. Well, lo and behold, of course, the South did attack that end of the fishhook. And the contention was that if they could have gotten around, they would have gotten between the Union Army and D.C., and they would have been able to sue for peace because the Union Army would have been isolated from Washington, D.C. Okay, so
are you going to make a correlation between
yes,
all of this and volleyball?
Yes, of course I am. And so it got down to it where they were pretty outmanned. It was a hot day, and the South was pouring up the hill against them, and they were holding the line. And then at the end, towards the end of the day, Joshua's Chamberlain's sergeants came to him and said, "We're out of ammunition. What do we do? If they come up one more time, we can't stop them, and they're going to get by us." And so Chamberlain, who was, I think, 27 or 28 at the time, years of age, he made a decision. He said, "We're going to charge." And they went, "What?" And they were out of ammunition. And so he made this decision, which nobody knew what the future was going to be at the instant of competition. And they charged. And they
didn't have any ammunition.
They had no ammunition. And so they charged with but the South didn't know it. They didn't yell down and say, we don't have any ammunition. I mean, they charged with bayonets, and they went after them. And the South was tired too, and they were coming up the hill, and they couldn't believe it, that they were coming out of the trenches and charging them, and they took prisoners, and they halted that charge, which may have won the war, or certainly didn't allow the South to win. Now, you say, how do I correlate that to volleyball? Is that, or in any sport actually, that it all comes down to one instant, one moment where a decision is going to be made, or performance is going to determine the success or failure of whatever group or team that you're playing with. And you got to prepare for those moments. And Chamberlain, if you look at his history and read about him, his whole life he'd prepared, and he was a professor, and he's a bright guy, and he wasn't afraid to make decisions at the moment in time. Consequences were pretty severe, if you can imagine.
When you're talking about volleyball, though, we're tending to talk about that instant being when the game ends or we're just finishing. But can't you have numerous instances
of course.
Excellence or instant? What do you call it?
Instant of competition.
Instant of competition.
It determines at that moment in time, whatever it happens to be, the success or failure of your team. And yeah, it could be a momentum changer. I can think in tons of them over the years of where one play made the difference, and it made the difference of turning the tide. It won games, also lost games. Maybe the famous one is the old poem about Casey at the bat in baseball. And at that point, it's all about Casey, who struck out. Mighty Casey struck out for Mudville, and they lied. And everybody was hoping on him, but nobody stops and thinks about the success of the pitcher that struck him out. That was his instant of competition, and he won. But the poem was written by the guy that was supposed to do it and didn't. And apparently that pitcher, I don't even know the pitcher's name, but he was the one at the instant of competition that succeeded. That's what I mean. Right?
Oh, Neville. Pretty erudite.
Yeah, that's good.